I would like to thank the 4 candidates for the role of GenSec that have come this evening. We have Joe, Charlie, Laura and Peter present today. We do have a lot of questions to get through. All the candidates will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and state why they feel that they are the best candidate for the role. You'll each have 1 minute then to respond to every question given, and you will take it in turns to you first to be asked the question. So, if we start with Joe, we'll have 1 minute to start.
Hi, my name is Joe. I'm running for the position of GenSec for the Students' Union. I'm a 3rd year physics student. I've been a student here for 4 years, that's how long I've been involved in the union. And I've actually worked for the union for the last 3 years, so I know a hell of a lot about how everything works around here. I don't really believe in making kind of vague, ephemeral sort of promises about things that I'm going to make happen based on involvement and stuff. I've got some ideas that I think would be really good for the union and ways of improving how effective we are at fighting for change for students. And yeah, I think with your help we could go a really long distance and really improve the situation for students.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook. I'm the current community officer and I'm also an RWA student alongside my role. So why am I the best candidate? I'd really like to bring my experience over the last year to the role of General Secretary. Utilise the instances that I've witnessed when we fell down and where we've succeeded and capitalise on that awareness. Particularly with marginalised groups at the union, sort of engagement with home students, with mature students, and student parents and carers. We really like to offer a lot more support and develop those channels here at the union with elected representatives. So yeah, I'd really like to basically be able to bring my community experience into the union and create sort of a more engaging culture and a more accessible environment.
Thank you, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Sullivan and I'm running for the role of GenSec. I am a final year English Literature and American Studies student. I'm also a mature student. And the main thing that I want to change is that I want to be a better point of contact for all students and staff and be friendly and approachable when it comes to dealing with everybody, because I think that that's something that perhaps the union is lacking. I want to make sure that everybody is forward-facing and that we can get ourselves out there into the student body to help make everybody feel more comfortable about the team that they've actually elected. The main things that I would say make me good for the job is the fact that I've got 10 years of work experience that I had before I came to university. I've also paid to put myself at college so that I could get into university in the first place. So I think that shows how I can achieve things that I put my mind to.
Thank you, Peter.
Hi, my name is Peter Weber. I'm also running for the role of GenSec. I'm a 2nd year PE student and I've really enjoyed my time in Manchester so far. I'm really keen to make the student experience at Manchester even better. By doing this, I want to create a better student environment. So I'd be lobbying for, say, safer cycle routes, campus buildings to be open longer so you can go and do your work whenever you like. I'd want some computers advanced bookable so you don't have to run around the learning commons in the library all day to try and find a computer and waste like half an hour of your time. I'd really be looking to make the student union provide services that were better value for money for you. So I'd ensure that the union was more accountable and give more transparency about where the union spends its money and really put on a more diverse range of events and help societies to get sponsorship and other ways of funding if there has to be cuts to avoid a £500,000 deficit.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the questions and we'll start the first question with Joe. What experience do you have with leadership roles?
What experience do I have with leadership roles? So I have helped quite a few societies organise events. I am a student rep for my course and I regularly take a kind of leading role in that. I've been asked to sit on several committees within the School of Physics and Astronomy to improve the student experience. in group work, I generally take a leading role, which involves ensuring that the project is completed in efficient and successful way, which often can be quite hard. I mean, organising a lot of people is difficult. People can have different opinions about things, different views about things. So I think it's very important to be effective at helping.
Thank you, Charlie.
Experience of leadership. So before, I've been in the post of community officer this year, currently still out. So I've represented students for the past year to a number of different groups. So I sit on residents association boards working with residents, where you can often encounter a lot of hostility, negativity, which I try and mitigate. I work with the council, the police, with students, with the university staff. It's probably the most dynamic role in terms of the different groups we're facing. So being able to communicate and represent to all those groups, the voices and views of students, is something that I've got experience of. Prior to being in the role, I was chair of Singapore NHS Society and captain of dodgeball stuck-ins, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, I've got plenty of experience in terms of leadership, which I would really look to bring to this role as General Secretary.
Thank you, Laura.
I've got quite a bit of experience in leadership roles as I've been an assistant manager and a manager at the City Centre Club in Sheffield. So I've had quite a small team, but a very close-knit team. We work closely together to make the pub run the best way that it could. I've also been a team leader at Sheffield City Hall, meaning that all the stewards and the ticket takers, if they had any issues, they'd always got a point of contact to come to. There's quite a lot of younger, but it was a very diverse range of ages of people that used to come and ask for help. And then I've also been a door supervisor for 3 years. So I've dealt with lots of different conflicts. Obviously, in pubs and clubs surrounding alcohol, things can get a bit crazy. So yes, I've definitely had to deal with people on all sorts of different levels, and I feel that experience will help me within the leadership role.
Thank you. Peter?
While I've been at Manchester University, I'm currently the peer mentor coordinator for PE. So I've been sorting out, putting all the mentor groups together, organising events, and really helping first years settle in. And it's really a case of being really approachable, communicating to everyone in a great way, and bringing people together to provide the best student experience for everyone. I'm also part of various committees, including PE Society, Giving What We Can. I've taken part in various competitions where I've had to lead a team and present, so plenty of experience there.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Charlie. As trustees, this year's officers have had to make redundancies and other cuts to union services. How do you handle this responsibility?
I have handled that responsibility, and I was part of the team and group that made those decisions, and it was incredibly hard. The changes that we've gone through have been incredibly difficult, and in terms of handling that, when you're faced with those sorts of situations, the best way you can do that is cohesively and address it all together in a very sort of open communication, dialogue kind of way, being as transparent as possible within the legal confines of your trustee role, both to students and to staff. And it's really important to ensure that you address both needs. As General Secretary, as a staff member, as an executive, as a trustee, and so in terms of handling those situations, I think we didn't do as good a job as we could. We were unprepared, and that's why I think that the experience that I have was really valid.
Thank you. Laura?
In terms of redundancies, I suppose it's always going to be a really difficult decision to have to make, and something that you have to do as part of the team. Having never had the experience of having to do anything like that myself, I think, as Charlie was saying, I think it's more a case of getting advice from people that have maybe had that experience and then coming together as a team to do the best job that you possibly can to make the best outcome that you possibly can.
Thank you, Peter.
I think when redundancies and cuts are necessary in the union, we really need to work together as a team to find out which roles are unnecessary or not, the most efficient use of your money, because it's far better to make redundancies and not lose a significant amount in services to students than instead run up large amounts of debt which you then have to pay to service over many years, and the students in the future would therefore suffer. So although it is difficult to make redundancies and cuts, I think we really need to ensure that students get the best value for their money. So when it's necessary, it's certainly the case that we have to do this.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, I think generally we've ended up in an unfortunate situation. I kind of think that cutting services and making redundancies is involving a kind of false dichotomy. We're attached to an incredibly wealthy union and university even. And if students are genuinely concerned about these services, we do have the power to essentially improve our situation financially by getting more money up to the university however we can. I think that we do need to ensure that we're running the union efficiently. Like, we should essentially make sure that we're using the staff we have as best as possible and not ending up in situations as we have been doing, like using agency staff and things like that. There are some services obviously that just aren't really used anymore, and that they can obviously, some of them can go as a part of the process of natural attrition, but generally speaking there's only a limited number of them, and I think we really do need to shield current students from the effects of past decisions and basically make sure we're doing everything we can to keep things running. I know we've had some problems.
Thank you. We'll start next question with Laura. What is your opinion on the NUS? Will you work with them, and do you think Manchester should continue to be part of them?
Yeah, I think it's a really important part of being a student, and I think that without the NUS, where would we be really? It's kind of where it's all come from. So I think to continue working with them is probably the best thing to do. But I suppose as an independent union, we have to look to what best fits the students that we have here.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Obviously it's most important to provide the best value for money services for students, and if working with the NUS means that we can provide better services and better support for students, that's certainly the way we should go. But I really need to assess whether it's worth it if I was to get into office, but I wouldn't make the decision on my own if I was to think to leave it. I would see what students think, and if there was an overwhelming majority to stay part of the NUS, which I think there probably would be, then it would certainly be the case that it's best to work with the NUS together to ensure that we provide the best services for students, and certainly ensure that the money we spend on the NUS is worth it.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, what's my opinion of the NUS? Not fantastic. I think, they haven't always been there for students in the way that they should be. But then, realistically, I'm not about to stand up and say that I'm going to start an alternative to it that's going to gain traction. I think that's like completely fanciful. I think, basically, we should stick with the NUS. We're a really, really big union, so we're best placed to sort of push through what we think our vision of the NUS should be, whilst working with other unions, obviously. And also, realistically, if we're talking about financial terms, we have to stay with the NUS. It's good value for money. We're part of NUSL, which is how we get all of our products into the union that we then sell to students. So it's like a no-brainer from my point of view.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, I think the NUS is great. There obviously was always improvements to be made, but I think actually that the support and the training they provide is fantastic, especially with the sort of interesting sort of situation of executive officers going into the top of an organisation and being sort of unprepared for that. So the training and support they can provide, the networks that they provide, information sharing of best practice, you meet other union executives, and that's a really supportive group of people for your time in office. And also the information which they gather as an organisation. That's what she said, hand in your pocket, those sorts of reports which really help us as officers fight for students' needs and establish what they are across the board. So yeah, no, I think actually the NUS are great, and I think that an affiliation to them is key.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Peter. How will you work to ensure the long-term financial sustainability continued?
Well, I think the union really needs to be accountable to students, and I would certainly give transparency so as much transparency as I would be allowed to give to see, so students could see where our money was spent and gone. I think it's really the case that we need to remove any bureaucracy in the union which is costly and unnecessary, and we should, it certainly needs to be assessed any ways that we can save money and ensure that our money in the union is spent efficiently so that we can provide the best services. And when money isn't working that well or a role isn't 100% necessary and we can save money and provide better services to students, I think it's very important to ensure that we don't get in a large amount of debt.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, I think the main ways that we're going to ensure our long-term financial viability is basically by making sure that everything from the commercial side is running really well. We're putting lots of gigs on that we're engaging students and stuff like that. And I think we're already a highly accountable institution. We're a charity, and we're already pretty efficient. The vast majority of the work that's actually done by the union is done by volunteers. We're essentially most of the money we're spending is on coordinating this. So I think this idea that there's a large swathe of bureaucracy to get rid of is a little bit ludicrous, but there you go. I think trying to improve our situation with regards to our block grant from university is really important, and that's definitely something that I'd be fighting for.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, the block grant mentioned is fantastic in terms of our financial sustainability and what we do here at the union and how we do it. Room for improvement, also sticking to that strategic plan to ensure the justification for investment in our services. We have now, in terms of financial sustainability, we've worked on that a lot this year. Obviously, the processes we've gone through. Now with a full-time financial director and sort of the staff, operation lady who are going to have a lot of oversight of that area. So I think that the wheels are in motion to certainly ensure that there is financial sustainability of this organisation. And yeah, like Jay mentioned, the volunteering and services that we provide are exceptional, and just to ensure that there's support for those services, support for staff, the support for the students within them. So yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
I think I agree with a lot of what Charlie just said, but also, I did have a good look at the strategic plan, and I think that's something that's definitely a good thing to keep following, because it's something that's there on the union website that the students can see what's going on. But I also think that it needs to be a little bit more transparent. We need to maybe get some sort of newsletter out to people to know, so that they know what the money is being spent on, because it is important to everybody. We want to know where money's going. So letting people know what the progress is on things is really important. And I suppose also making sure that the big events that we have on pull in a good amount of students. So working on marketing and things like that to get as many students in as possible. And I suppose working within the team to make the best decisions possible so that we can scrape back some money.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Joe. Each year the SU has a priority campaign in which all members of the exec work to campaign on a single issue. What do you think should be the priority campaign for 2014-15?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure that's something that I should be looking to set directly. Obviously, it very much depends on everyone else who gets elected and what's appropriate, at the time in the coming few months, essentially. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could focus on. There's a hell of a lot of people at this university now paying £9 for their degree, and I think those people want more. Free tea and coffee, something like that. I don't see why we couldn't do it if there's the impetus in the student body.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Like Joseph, obviously it's a group decision in terms of setting priority campaign. I think Mash mentioned student consultation would be excellent. That would be the ideal on how you set a priority campaign for the executive. If I were to say, personally I really want to work on engaging marginalised groups, home students who don't know the rules, offering them more engagement channels, their own networks to lead on the issues that they want addressed, as well as home students, student parents, student carers, mature students. But there's also a lot of work to be done even engaging North Campus, especially with the shutting down of the union there. So general sort of engagement and accountability processes probably as well. So in terms of how we are held to account, engagement generally isn't great with those demographic structures. So reviewing them and reviewing how we can better serve our students in that way.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I think it's really important that it's something that students get to decide and get to put their ideas forward for. So I don't really want to say that I've got an idea for it because I don't think that that's my place to decide.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Yeah, it's certainly something which you need to discuss with the rest of the exec at the time and see what's relevant. I do really like the idea of giving the students the opportunity to decide what should be the most important issue. Maybe if the exec put forward maybe 5 options and then there was an online poll to see which one we went forward with. Maybe an important issue for me that I think the union needs to address is maybe more postgraduate funding and bursaries. But that's just a personal opinion. I think it needs to be decided with others.
Okay, thank you. Next question we'll start with Charlie. With the university's plan to move all students to Oxford Road in mind, how would you ensure North Campus students feel included, represented and not isolated?
So actually one of the policies that I have and one of the things I will work on is engagement with North Campus. As I mentioned previously, shutting down of the union there due to the financial restrictions that we've gone through. Having a space at the North Campus which is very much like a union base, a hub if you like, with information about the union in terms of the advice services, what we offer, society sign-ups, executive contacts, like that people can just be directed to as a point of contact, but also having more events at North Campus. So we had a refreshers fair this year, which was quite small but really, really good, really engaging, growing on that and expanding, and also having mirrored events which go on here at South Campus rather, in North Campus. So for example, the housing fair, which is concentrated a lot in uni plays at the moment, and it ran actually this year in the union. Having that sort of mirrored down in North Campus, I think could be great for raising awareness of what the union's up to, and general sort of like providing those services to students and taking them out of this building up to North Campus to ensure that they don't feel estranged.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
I think that events is a big part of it to get people involved, because I suppose having events just on Oxford Road is not really the correct thing to do. I suppose it'd be better to extend the events out to North Campus. But as Charlie said about information, I think that's a really good idea. I think that if there was information up there for people so that they knew what things were going on down here, then that would maybe make them feel as though they were more included. But also I think it might be a good idea to have one exec team member out of the 8, and so you could work around and one go up and work there for a week and then swap round and have a different exec team member. And then maybe that would help people feel more included, and they could know who was coming up on that week, and then if they've got any issues they can go to them.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, more events in North Campus is good, and there's obviously been some that should be continued. Information point also not a bad idea. It seems cheap and get the students engaged, so that would be good. Ensuring that there's lobbying for maybe better bus routes around the North Campus, especially for students that live there. Maybe not having an exec member there the entire week by themselves assigned, maybe a meekly exec, hour every week or something for each exec member, really giving the opportunity for, encouraging people at the North Campus to engage with the exec members, rather than having to come down here.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's really important to our students on North Campus what they actually want. I mean, up until a few years ago, we had a completely mirrored set of services at the North Campus Union, and they just weren't really used a lot. And I mean, obviously, I know there's a chicken and egg problem here because services are underused, you don't really want to go and use them, but it is really important to make sure we're actually getting North Campus students what they want. And I think part of that is getting more stuff going on North Campus. It's a very underused space as part of this kind of like Oxford Road programme. And so I think like getting as many rooms available to societies and things, and incentivising people to like move up there and do stuff. I mean, it's really central and there's loads of great advantages to it, but at the moment it's just kind of being abandoned by the university, which is a bit sad. So it'd be good if we could get some momentum behind get stuff done.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Laura. Should the General Secretary be renamed to President?
No. That's my answer, sorry.
Thank you.
No, President and Gen Sec imply very different things. So President would take more of a leading role over the rest of the executive members, but that certainly isn't what Gen Sec should be doing. It should be working with the other executive members on equal levels, and more just being a coordinator or just seeing, like working together and helping everybody out rather than being more of an autocratic figure.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
No, we shouldn't rename the Gen Sec president. We shouldn't like give it presidential powers either. I don't think anyone's particularly wanting a kind of executive system in our union. And also, although there are some similarities, obviously the role of Gen Sec does involve you taking quite a lot of the flak from the university and being a leading point of contact with them. It is a different role. It is more about ensuring that the exec is running in a functional way, and getting stuff done for students. So I think it's a stupid idea to change it. Big waste of time.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. No, I don't think it should be changed. The role of General Secretary, the title of it is to be accessible on multiple levels. Firstly, because it's shown that if you change the title to President, then less women run for it. So literally inaccessible. And also the associations, as previously mentioned, with the idea of the hierarchical sort of presidential role. It should far more be, you're one team member of 8. And you represent that collective voice, certainly, but you are a team member, and I want to ensure that that is maintained within this team.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Peter. Do you think the Students' Union is spending its money in the right places? And if not, where would you allocate it to?
Well, I think it's quite hard for me as an outsider of the union to know exactly where our money is being spent all the time, so I can't really go into massive details. But I know one big issue for me is, as being part of many societies, having been told and implied that our union, the money that we get from the union as a society could well be cut, and we certainly, as part of one of the societies I was in, we received a third of the money this year than we did in the previous year. And I think the society is the most important part of the student experience that the union provides, and I think helping out societies, providing them funding, or at least some other perks like maybe making rooms cheaper and stuff like that is a really important thing, and that's where we should focus. Well, that bit certainly shouldn't be cut, that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Joe.
Broadly, yes. I do think we are spending money in the right place. I would also look to ring-fence funds for welfare and campaigns, and obviously associated things like that. I think, obviously the grass can always be greener. So yeah, I think there's not a huge amount wrong. I do think ensuring consistency with the amount of money societies are getting through the union is important. I know a lot of people, myself included, when helping run societies, find it confusing that standards do seem to change quite a lot. The amount of money seems to get changes quite a lot. I know obviously that's a result of that being controlled by an elected position, but I think we could do a bit better.
Thank you, Charlie.
Broadly, again, yes, I think it's being spent in good places. Our societies have grown exponentially this year, the amount of societies that we have, the amount of students engaging with the union in that respect, which is fantastic. So there will need to kind of be a redress of looking at the funding allocations because of the growth in numbers. But also around spaces that Peter mentioned, I mean, that's what we could do outside of the union, so like working with the university to ensure that spaces are actually at cheaper rates. At the moment it costs on average £60 to rent a room from the university, which is over half of the majority of students' budgets for the year. So there's certain things we can do with working at them and that we have approached them about, which they are sort of like happy to look into. So working outside of the union itself to facilitate the needs of students. But broadly speaking, the finances I think are going to the right places.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know a great deal about where the finances are being spent, but I do know that the rooms are expensive that you have to rent out from the university, so I think that's definitely something that we could work on. But yeah, I don't really know much, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Joe. How will you work with staff members to increase attendance at democratic events such as this question time and student assemblies?
How will I work with staff members to increase attendance? That's fairly difficult. I mean, making sure that these events are well publicised is important. You know, this event, for instance, could have done with a few posters, and similarly with student assemblies. But part of democratic participation is that it's a choice, not a requirement. So I think sometimes, essentially, if people aren't interested in coming to these things, we can't hold a gun to their heads and say, you must come to the assembly, whatever. And that's part of the reason why the assembly runs the way it does, because it doesn't require what we had before, where you needed a quorum and things like that. So yeah, I think promoting it better, and I also think that if we're doing a good job, people will be more interested. But yeah.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Well, I think it's worth noting that our staff do a fantastic job already. They really do, especially the work that go into the elections and everything like that. But in terms of working with them to increase attendance, I suppose it would be more having democratic processes ingrained into the everyday. Making it sort of it's just a thing at the union. That's the process we go through. So I've talked about having like accountability policy in the motor union and working with them on that, and having like these sorts of events more often. So like Q&As with your executive, bringing them more into the everyday running of the union rather than these democratic governance sort of processes being the one-off. I think that would probably be a better way to get general attendance up, because it becomes a generalised thing. But yeah, I think staff do a very good job, but I think it is the role of the executive to act as that communication and basically we can definitely improve on that by working together.
Thank you, Laura.
I think the main thing, well, I've already kind of been said, but I think posters and emails go around to people, maybe offer some sort of incentive. But I think the main thing that you could do is actually go on and speak to people and actually ask them what they want to see. And see whether they want to come along. And I think the relationship that you have with your staff is the most important. And I think that the more that you get to know people and speak to them, the more they're going to be interested in the things that you're told in anyway.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Public promotion is key. Can't really go around speaking to everyone about it, but there's certainly ways you can make people aware. So you can work with society leaders to send emails out to students in certain societies. You could put it in like a union newsletter. You could advertise in Crank Union even. Exec could use social media to increase attendance. Say they could whack it on their Facebook or Twitter or something. Say when the next event is, and really making the union more accessible to everyone, so people know about it. Posters out around the union even really isn't that expensive. So it's just mainly better promotion and working with course leaders and society leaders to really get communications in people's inboxes.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Charlie. If you had to get rid of one exec team officer, which would it be and why?
I would not get rid of an executive team officer. The team would put it to a student consultation, and that is that is the right thing to do to ascertain who students want to represent them, and that's the only way you can do it. It's the only democratic way that it can be done. So I don't have an answer for that. My answer is that the students would decide and we would facilitate that. And if it was GenSec, then it would go. But yeah, so essentially the student consultation would be the way forward with that.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely up to the students, because at the end of the day, they pick one of us to do a job for them, which we get paid to do. So I think it's really important that they get to decide who, if they're going to get rid of somebody. But in my mind, if it was just my opinion, then I think that I wouldn't get rid of anybody. I'd probably invent another role and have a post-grad position as well.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, personal opinion, I wouldn't get rid of one either, but if you did have to get rid of one, yes, a student vote is a great idea. It's students' money paying for these elected positions. Let them decide what they want the union to do. I mean, if we were to get rid of one, it would be the case you'd have to merge two roles into one, so maybe you'd assess which exec member had you could maybe see which two roles could be merged without a loss of services to students. So that would be the way to do it if you had to get rid of one role.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, if I had to get rid of one role, you'd obviously have to put this to a student vote, because personally I already think there are too few exec roles. I think there are some people, or some roles in fact, where essentially there isn't enough time to do everything that's required under the role. So there's already quite a lot of squeezing going on. So I think getting rid of one would be ludicrous, but if we had to do it, you'd have to ask the students.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next question will start with Laura. What would you do to deal with student apathy?
It's going to sound really ridiculous here, but disinterest. It's difficult to get people interested.